Shema Yisrael, Yehovah Eloheinu, Yehovah Ehad. Welcome back to the Lost House of Israel series. We will continue exploring the remarkable revelations of the book of Ephraim. Today I'm going to take you on a trip to Ethiopia. But before we get started, I will take time to answer one of your questions concerning the picture of the wall to my right. It is a picture of the famous Rock-Hewn church of St. Georgis in the fabled city of Lalibela in Ethiopia. Imagine a man deciding to build a monolithic church almost 1,000 years ago, not from the ground up, but from the ground down, and not on soft earth, but on a solid piece of mountain. As you see, the church was built downward into solid rock. I have been inside the church, and words simply do not explain this amazing feat and how it was accomplished. And to further mystify the world, there is not just one church hewed out of solid rock, but 10 others that are connected together, and they hold services to this very day. Again, words can't explain this. There is speculation to how they were built, and that's just exactly what it is, speculation, because no one actually knows. But more on the magnificent churches of Lalibela at another time. Today we are on our way to a remarkable wonder of the world of Ethiopia, entwined with your unknown and forgotten history. Today we will visit one of the ancient and sacred island monasteries of Holy Lake Tana, and follow in the footsteps of the journey I actually made years ago. I have also included a few old photos of the monastery, monks, and treasures that I was honored to be shown. I was blessed to hold in my hands ancient books that are priceless. I was even privileged to hold a sacred Ethiopian cross that was solid gold. They are the insert photos on the side of the main picture. Although you may have never heard of Lake Tana, it is an ancient and mystical place that the Greeks, Romans, and Egyptians, among others, have legends and folklore of magical and adventurous tales. Unbeknownst to most of the current world today, the ancient world was enthralled with Ethiopia. Yes, the same Ethiopia that they taught us was wretched and poor. That was destitute and without any historical value. These same cultures built into their astronomical systems constellations that are to this current day named after Ethiopian kings and queens. For example, the constellation Cassiopeia that is part of our current-day lexicon and which anyone can observe in the night sky is named after an ancient queen of Ethiopia, and she's not the only one. And today I tell you that Ethiopia and Lake Tana have a special connection to you and I and our ancestors, the lost house of Israel. I did not travel to Lake Tana as a tourist. I came as a seeker, a descendant of a scattered people, a son of a forgotten house. The journey across Lake Tana is not a simple crossing. It is a passage through time. For 6 hours, the boat moved across waters that shimmered with the same reddish-golden hue described by the Greeks, the Romans, and the Egyptians. They believed the color came from the breath of gods, from minerals carried down from the highlands, from the blood of ancient earth itself. But the people of Lake Tana have their own explanation. They say the water remembers. It remembers the footsteps of Menelik the first. It remembers the priests who carried the ark. It remembers the tribes who fled north and south, east and west. It remembers the prayers of Beta Israel whispered across centuries. As I traveled deeper into the lake, I saw the boats, not modern vessels, but ancient papyrus crafts, the same kind used along the Nile River thousands of years ago. Some say these boats came from Egypt. Others say Egypt learned from Ethiopia. But the elders of Lake Tana tell a different story, that the papyrus boats, which are known as Tankwas, were born here, on these waters, long before the pharaohs carved their names into stone. Watching farmers glide across the lake on these fragile vessels, I felt as if I were witnessing a living memory, a link between civilizations, a thread connecting Ethiopia to Egypt, Egypt to Israel, Israel to the descendants scattered across the Western Hemisphere. And then there are the hippos, silent, massive, unpredictable. They rise from the water like spirits, claiming lives each year, shaping the rhythm of the people who depend on this lake for survival. This is not a gentle place. It is a sacred place. A place where myth and danger coexist. A place where history breathes deep breaths. A place where I hope to find answers. After hours on the water, the island rose before me like a vision. The monastery roof, ancient, weathered, and impossibly tall, emerged from the greenery as if the forest itself were lifting it toward heaven. This was not simply architecture, it was testimony. For centuries, these monasteries have guarded stories that the world has forgotten. Stories of priests who carried sacred objects across mountains and rivers. Stories of tribes who fled persecution and found refuge in the highlands. Stories that echo the revelations found in the book of Ephraim. Revelations that many black people of the Western Hemisphere are descended from the ancient house of Israel, which in ancient Ethiopia became known as Beta Israel, the house or the nation of Israel. Assertions that the lost tribes did not vanish, they migrated. They adapted, they survived. Initially, they thrived and flourished, but, as had been the fulfillment of the prophecies before in the Bible, the curses caught up with them, and even in this sacred land, the nation of Israel once again was driven into exile, deeper and deeper into the interior of Africa. But standing there beneath that towering roof, I felt as though I had stepped into a memory older than my own life by centuries, indeed by millennia. A memory that belonged to my ancestors. A memory that had long been waiting for me. As the boat moved away from Bahadar, the water beneath me glowed with a reddish-golden hue. It felt less like a lake and more like a mirror of time. I was crossing history. I was crossing identity. I was crossing into the land where the Ark of the Covenant was said to have rested for centuries, carried here by Menelik I, son of King Solomon and the Queen of Sheba, hidden among the monasteries that rise from these islands like guardians of memory. The monks greeted me with quiet smiles, men carrying centuries of tradition in their eyes. Their presence was gentle, but their heritage was powerful. These were not simply Christian monks. They were inheritors of a lineage that stretches back to the earliest days of Ethiopian faith and even beyond, a lineage intertwined with the ancient Israelites who once walked these very lands and championed the greatest of challenges. Their ancestors practiced rituals and traditions that predate modern religion, and they eventually became the guardians and preservers of the original laws of Moses. They preserved customs that mirror those of the ancient Hebrews and not of modern-day Jewry. They carried stories of tribes who crossed deserts and mountains, seeking refuge from empires that sought to erase them. As I stood there in their midst, I felt something unexpected, not foreignness, but familiarity. A sense that I was not meeting strangers, but distant relatives. Keepers of a heritage that my own direct ancestors had shared long before history scattered us across oceans. And in that moment, in that instant of eternal time, the revelations found in the book of Ephraim were no longer abstract. They were alive. They were present. Before entering the chapel, the monks prostrated themselves, a gesture of reverence so deep it seemed to bend time. This was the entrance to the Holy of Holies, a place where the Ark of the Covenant was said to have rested, a place where priests have guarded sacred objects for centuries, a place where the line between myth and history blurs into something profound and truly mystical. Menelik I, son of King Solomon and the Queen of Sheba, is said to have carried the Ark to Ethiopia, and for generations, the monasteries of Lake Tana were its refuge. As the monk bowed, I felt the gravity of that legend, not as a distant story, but as a living memory. The door before him was massive, carved with symbols that whispered of ancient faith. The air was thick with incense. The silence was holy, and I realized that I was standing at the threshold of a mystery that has shaped nations, a mystery that holds clues to the identity of millions like myself, a mystery that grabbed me by the spirit and brought me here. Words are powerful, and if they are the right words, the vibration and energy embedded in them will strike your consciousness and penetrate into the cosmic core of your being. And like pure water of a mighty stream, they will nourish the ancient seed divine within that this grossly material world has sought to destroy. So indeed we will continue our journey home, for we have yet to learn about two remarkably magnificent queens of Ethiopia who left their profound imprint on the world, one of whom history has effectively erased her memory, just as it tried to erase your identity. We are an ancient people, a great and mighty people. When we truly understand the power within us, nothing will ever be the same. We must teach our children that they are the beginning and the end of all civilization. When these truths begin to pulsate and radiate from the core of their being, nothing on this earth will be able to contain them, and they will create the new world spoken of in Revelations. I leave you with these solemn words from Exodus. Behold, I make a covenant before all thy people. I will do marvels such as have not been done in all the earth, nor in any nation. And the people among which thou art shall see the work of Jehovah. Thank you for joining me. I'll see you next time as we continue our journey home. Until then, Shema Yisrael. Yehovah Eloheinu Yehovah Ehad. To the first fruits standing up in the midst of Babylon, and to those who will, Shalom Alaikum. And to all the people of the book, Jehovah's peace be upon you. Jehovah bless you and keep you. Jehovah make his face to shine upon you, and be gracious unto you. Jehovah lift up his countenance upon you, and give you and your family peace.